Hello, 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 and welcome back to Conversations with JR. Thank you for joining me for today's conversation. Today's topic: you're not meant to connect to everything and to everyone. And the reason why I am saying this to you, my listeners, is that recently I had an experience that taught me a profound lesson. With Conversations with JR, I always like to share with you some of my life experiences, hoping that it will give you a moment to think about the things and experiences and the incidents that you are having in your life, and to really deeply ponder the situation and how you can learn from those situations. So the experience wasn't tragic. It wasn't a heartbreaking experience that I had, but it lasted long enough for me to understand that it was time for me to disconnect, step back, get still, turn inward, and have a conversations with my inner self. And the reason why I said time to disconnect, I knew that it wasn't time for me to connect to other people over this situation. And usually when we have an experience that we perceive as negative, we don't step back, but sometimes we step forward and we move forward and we react before really understanding the real situation and the real cause for the situation. And when I say get still, I really get very quiet. I get very peaceful. Some people think that when you get quiet and you don't talk, that you have an attitude. And turn inward and have a deep conversation with my inner self, just in that time of peace, just really listen to yourself. That's why it's not really a good idea sometimes when you have certain experiences to go run off and tell other people and share it with other people. Sometimes it's good for you to just sit with that experience and really think about that experience and think about both sides of the experience. You see, the old me would have reacted differently, and I would have become angry, and I would have ranted about the experience to anyone who wanted to listen to me play the role of a victim. Because when we find ourselves in an experience that we feel that people are turning on us, or that people are actually, we become a victim and we think that people are coming at us, and we become angry towards that. But again, like I said, my stepping back and becoming still is that I wanted to look at this from both sides. And you see, the old me would have carried this anger around like a badge of honor for my wounds, because when we are in these experiences and we're going through the process of these experiences and these occurrences and these incidents, we feel wounded. You feel wounded. You feel people beating up on you. You feel people beating down on you. You feel people are bringing you down. But is that really the case? Because at that moment, you're just seeing red. You're not really thinking clearly. You're not really feeling clearly. You're just caught up in that moment at that time. And I've also learned not to speak back and react, while the experiences is happening. But I'm not that person anymore. And I'm glad that I'm not that person anymore that would have ranted to everyone and would have felt so wounded and would have carried this on and on and on and on to the point where it would have negatively affect my sleep and affect my eating habits and my thinking. I'm so glad that I've learned to step back. And think critically about the occurrence that my mind and my heart and my soul and my body immediately wanted to conclude that this is a negative situation and that you're being targeted and you need to do something about it. I'm glad that I was able to take a deep breath and to step back. So this is what I did. I spent the week in silence. I'm fortunate enough to still be able to work at home. And I still go out 2 days at my other job, but I spent the week in silence. When I mean silence, I mean there was no TV. I did not connect to social media. I was not chatting on the phone, and I did not mention the incident to anyone. Not anyone, even though I was burning in my soul to do so. I sat and I journaled and I prayed, and I even read my Bible, and I kept silent. I didn't want to have this inner conversation about going back and forth with my inner self about, that it was wrong. That you were hurt. That this person meant to bring you down. That this person meant to embarrass you. They came at you. I did not want to have that type of inner dialogue. So I just kept silent. It happened on the third day of my silence. I arrived at the conclusion that the incident brought attention to an area of my life that I wasn't nurturing, that I wasn't paying attention to. This incident actually brought awareness to me. That's why it's so good sometimes to step back and to take a breath and to understand what is going on. What's the real deal? What is really going on here? What I've learned is that I need to pay attention to my behavior and thinking when I'm in a group setting. More importantly, I need to pay attention how I attach myself to this group. Because this incident happened when I was in this group of people that I support and that I dearly love, and I know that they dearly love me, this person was not a part of this group. This person was invited in to speak during that time. But what I really learned from this incident, from this experience, and what this person really did for me was really set me aside to show me that I need some awareness. Now, it is human nature, it is our instinct to belong to groups and to want to belong to someone. We want to be in relationships. We don't want to be left out. We want to feel that sense of wholeness and that sense of connection. No one really wants to feel left out. However, what I've learned from this incident, it's out of habit that when people join a group or a team or organization or your tribe or whatever you want to call your group of people, and like I said, it is good to have connection with like-minded people. But be careful that you don't make a habit of changing your mindset or your behavior to match that of the group because you want to belong. So I know you're saying to yourself, but what does that have to do with the experience? But that's what I'm trying to tell you. This was the experience. This person pushed me aside. That I thought pushed me aside and didn't give me the same attention on that day that he gave to other people in that group. He didn't give me that same individualized attention. And when I walked away, I felt wounded. I felt embarrassed because there were other people around that when it happened. I felt wounded. I felt embarrassed. I felt unwanted. That's what I felt. But like I said, stepping back and looking back with this group that I am connected to, like I said, I love these people. These people are very loving. They're very encouraging group of people. The group is an amazing collection of aged and young and old, and we are culturally mixed and we are like-minded. And since being present and connecting with this group, I discovered that I am not as depressed as I used to be because I am connecting with people who I feel within myself are genuine because they have expressed nothing else to me. I feel that I'm surrounded by loving people. They express love, and not only do they express love, they show you love in all forms. And when we meet, which is usually twice a week, it's an amazing celebration. It is so amazing and it's so uplifting. And I often leave our meetings happy and looking forward to the next meeting. So the incident that happened that singled me out, but like I said, a few people did recognize and witness the interaction. I even had one person who spoke to me about it, and I told them that, I would rather just think about the incident. It left me wondering, why me? I have found my tribe. Why me? Why did this person do this to me? But I wasn't going to play the pity game. I really was not going to play the pity game. I wanted to make sense of this incident. And I didn't feel the need to confront the other person. This is what the person who I spoke to wanted me to do. I felt no need to confront the other person. Remember, I am changing my life, my mindset. I've gone through years of a healing process, and I want to change how I approach people and I approach situations and how I approach experiences. I am glad that I simply took a step back and examined what really happened. And what this did for me was it gave me a teaching moment. It made me step back and look at my behavior within this group. And was I changing my behavior, my mannerism, and who I am because I was within this group and I no longer saw myself as an individual while I'm in this group? That I no longer saw myself as an individual. And that my behavior, and when I thought about it, that my behavior was changing while I am in this group, and I wanted to be so much attached to this group, and I wanted this sense of belonging and this sense of love and this sense of connection, that I was actually thirsting for something that they were getting from this individual, but that wasn't for me. And so I had to really look at it, and I had to really step aside. And I had to really think about what it is that I am doing and behaving within this group. And am I changing too much? And am I leaving off who I am? Now, I know that you're probably asking yourself, am I going to go back to the group? The answer is yes. They didn't do anything to me. I'm going back with new knowledge and better awareness. It was a teaching moment. And that I learned to examine myself and my behavior. And what people do not understand is that they often miss teaching moments because they're so bent on blowing the experience out of proportion, going after that other person, wanting to be a victim, wanting to be vindicated. No, it wasn't that type of situation. It wasn't that type of situation. It was a situation where I had to have a teaching moment for myself, and that I had to put in place everything that I said that when I've gone through this healing process, everything that I have gone through with this healing process, and all the tools and the techniques and the strategies and the methods that I have been using over time that I have been talking to you about. When it comes down to your life and your healing process and dealing with certain events and people, places, and things. I thank you for listening. I love sharing my experiences with you, and I thank you for listening. This is Conversations with JR. You know that you can find me on all social media platforms. I am on Facebook. You can subscribe to my YouTube channel. Share, click, like on those videos. Share my podcast. Sit down and have some conversation with your inner self. And think about the next time that you have an experience, occurrence, or an instant. Maybe you need to just step back. Breathe. Get still. Talk to that inner self. Because maybe it is not as bad as you think it is. And maybe it's a teaching moment. And you will come out better for just stepping back and observing the situation and examining the situation instead of jumping into the fire and making situations something that it really isn't. I thank you for listening. Till the next time. I hope the next conversation that you have is a good one.